says that on a map of downtown, 12th Street is perpendicular to Avenue J. The equation y equals negative 4x plus 3 represents 12th Street. What is the equation that would represent Avenue J if it passes through the point 816? Okay, so if it is perpendicular, so we know we've got those two words, parallel, perpendicular. What does parallel mean? They're side by side, right, never will touch. Perpendicular means they are going to touch, right? They're the exact opposite. So parallel is same slope, perpendicular is opposites. Okay, so we see this word, we automatically know we want the opposite slope. Okay. All right, so they gave us this coordinate point. What letter is this first number? What letter does this represent? X and Y. Very good. Okay, so we have some X and Y value here, okay? And we know we want the opposite slope. Well, in this equation, what was the slope? What's the slope over here? What's our slope in that equation? Which number is our slope? There we go. All right, so if my slope is currently negative 4, what would be the opposite of that? What's the opposite of negative 4? We want a positive, yes, but we also flip it over. So it's negative 4 over 1. I'm going to make it positive and flip it over. So the opposite slope, or m, would be positive 1 over 4. Flip it over. Okay, so now I've got an x, I've got a y, and I have an m for slope. Remember, we always write our equations in y equals mx plus b form, right? Okay, so what number can I plug in for y? What did we say our y was? 16. Good. Right here we got 16. Is equal to, I'm supposed to put m next. What did we say our m was going to be? Good. Times x, which yes is 8, plus b. Do we know b? No, so we're just going to leave it as b, right? Okay, so what would we want to do first here to simplify? Distribute out. What is 1/4 times 8? 2. Very good. So I got 16 is equal to 2 plus b. And I'm trying to figure out what b is, so I want it by itself. What should we do now? Good. Okay. So I got 16 minus 2, which is going to give us 14. Very good. All right. So I'm looking over here for an equation that's going to have a b of positive 14. So which ones can we already eliminate? Very good. Okay. And we said it needed to have this slope. So which one of the ones remaining has that slope? Very good. So that's just a little review question from last semester. Okay, so if you guys remember, right before we started preparing for final exams, we were solving systems of equations using graphing, substitution, and then last week we even reviewed it a little more, elimination, right? Okay, so here, they first want us to review graphing. So remember, graphing means I come and put it over here, and I see where the two lines cross, right? So this equation right here, 2x plus y equals negative 8. Remember, we want it in y equals mx plus b form, so what am I going to need to move to make that happen? Huh? Very good. So I have y is equal to negative 2x minus 8. Right? So now that one's good to go, right? Okay. And then we need to fix this one as well. In that other equation, what should I move? X. Very good. So I'm going to subtract x from both sides, and I would have negative 3y is equal to negative x plus 3. Okay? And then we got to get the y by itself, so how could we get rid of that negative 3? Very good. So we divide everything by negative 3. So then I got y equals, can I actually divide x by 3?
No, we can turn it into 1.
Perfect. It's like having a 1 right there. And two negatives will make a,
Positive.
so we got positive 1/3 x. And what is 3 divided by negative 3? Negative 1, right? All right, so here's my first equation, and here's my second equation. I'm going to come over here and graph those. Okay, so the first equation starts at negative 8. So I come down here, give myself a point at negative 8. Okay, my slope is negative 2, so how does that mean I'm going to move? Good. Down 2 over 1. Okay, I'm going to have to also go the opposite direction to fill in the rest of the graph. All right. Okay, so there's our first equation. Okay, that second one starts at negative 1. So I'm going to put my y-intercept at negative 1. Okay, that one's slope is 1/3, so how does that mean we're going to go for our points? Very good. All right, so do these two lines cross? Yes, they do cross. At what point? Perfect. So that must be my solution. Okay, so we also talked some about graphing, substitution and elimination. You guys kind of refreshed yourselves on that at the end of last week. Okay, then we are going to learn our fourth and final method for how we can solve systems of equations. Okay, so you can solve a system of equations using matrices, which will be done in your calculator. Okay, so you don't really have to do much solving, you just have to know how to plug in your numbers. Okay? So a matrix is going to be arranged as some rectangular shape with some rows and columns. Okay, so here we got some rows running this way, some columns running up and down. So rows are horizontal, columns vertical. You then have to determine what the dimensions of your matrix is. Okay? So the dimensions are how many rows and how many columns that you have. Okay, so you're always going to put rows first and then columns. Okay, rows by columns. Okay, so on figure A, how many rows do we have? 3. By how many columns do we have? 2. So this is a 3 by 2 matrix. Okay. All right, on figure B, how many rows do we have? 2, good. And how many columns? 3, so this is a 2 by 3 matrix. Okay. All right, and then on figure C, how many rows do we have?
2.
And how many columns? So this would be a 2 by 2 matrix. This is important because you have to tell your calculator how many rows and how many columns, okay? All right, so flip it over onto the back. It says systems can be solved using matrices in your calculator using the same mathematical principle that you would use to solve this equation right here. Okay? So, to solve this right here, what would you do first? divide by 2. So you can either divide by 2, or what's the same thing as dividing by 2? What would get me the same answer as dividing by 2? All right. Or you can multiply by the inverse of 2, which, like he said, is 0.5 or 1/2. Okay? All right, so these are the steps that we are going to follow in our calculator so that it can solve the system of equations for us using matrices. All right? So it says we're going to make sure that we're got it in standard form. So now I want it written this way. Instead of y equals mx plus b, I want x plus y equals c. Okay? All right, once you've done that, we're going to press alpha F3 to go to your matrix and tell the calculator your dimensions, how many rows and how many columns. Okay? Then you will arrow down and press enter and type in your numbers or your coefficients. Arrow to the right and press inverse, press alpha F3 and enter your matrix B and repeat those steps, press enter, and it's going to solve it for us. Okay? So let's give that a try on this example here. Okay? So you are always going to set yours up in the same order. Okay? We're always going to put our x's first, and then our y's. Okay? Then we work across our rows like we would across the equations. Okay? You're not going to put any letters in these boxes, only numbers. Okay? Remember, a coefficient is just the number that's in front. Okay? So they said that we needed it in this form. X, y equals a constant. So is this x, y equals a constant here? X, y equals a constant, yeah. The next one, x, y equals a constant. Okay, so it's in the right order. Okay, so we can move forward. Okay, so I pick my coefficients. Those are the numbers in front. Well, what's in front of x? 2. So that's what I'm going to put here. Okay, I'm going to continue across that row. Well, there's not anything in front of y, so what's it understood that there is there? A 1. Good. Okay, equals, what's our constant? -8. Very good. Okay, and then in the second row, you put your second equation. So what number is in front of x? Good. What number is in front of y? -3. Make sure you bring that negative with you. Equals +3. Very good. Okay, now that you have it filled in, we just need to go type it in our calculator. Okay, so in your calculator, okay, since we've got it all filled in, it says on step 2, we're going to press alpha F3. So alpha on my screen up here is this green button. F3 is the third button on the top row, and this is what it should bring up. Okay, so as everybody types alpha F3. F3 is on the very top row. Zoom. Okay. All right, so in ours over here, we don't need this box, okay? We don't really need that. I'm looking in this box right here. How many rows does that box have? And how many columns does that box have? So that's what I'm going to put in my calculator, that I have a 2 by 2. So make sure that your 2's are highlighted in each column. Okay? All right, once you have the correct term highlighted, oops, there it goes. Then you're going to press OK by hitting enter. Okay, and it brings up this blank matrix for you, okay? You're going to put the numbers in there that we have written, okay? So on the top row, we had a 2 and then a 1, right? So I'm going to press 2, arrow over, put in your 1. Okay, so I got 2 and then 1 in there. Okay, in the second row, what should we have?
1, 3.
Very good. So I got 1, arrow over, put in a -3. All right, so we should have the same numbers in here that we wrote down right there. Everybody got that so far? We're good there? Okay. So once you have done that, you then arrow outside of the matrix. So move your arrow over so that it's outside over here. And it says to press the X to the -1 button. Okay, so that's this one right here under the word math. Okay. Okay, and then step 8 says to press alpha F3 again. So alpha and F3. Okay, in this last little matrix over here where we have the -8 and the 3, how many rows do we have? Rows. 2. Right, how many columns do we have? Right. So I want this one to still say I have 2 rows, but I need to change it to say that I have 1 column. Well, maybe my calculator seems to be freezing. There it goes. Okay. Oh, that's not good. It's got a mind of its own. Okay, try again. There we go. Okay, so now that I have it highlighted, saying that I've got 2 rows and 1 column, I need to hit OK. And it should give me a blank box of that size. Okay, and you just type in the numbers that we wrote down, which were -8 in the top row and 3 in the bottom row. Okay. All right, once you have that all typed in, you're going to arrow outside of that box, and then you're just going to press enter, and it just solved it for you. Okay, so the answer we got is -3 in the top, -2 in the bottom, right? Okay, so I'm going to come over here, write that down. This was equal to -3 over -2. Okay, so the -3 is in the top row, right? What letter did we say was being represented in the top row there? X. So X must be -3. What's being represented in the bottom row? Y. So Y must be -2. Okay? So then I'm going to write these as an ordered pair. We got -3, -2. Okay? All right. So let's do another one so we can get better at typing those in the calculator, okay? So I remember I want these to be x, y equals a number. Is that what these are on number 3? X, y equals a number. X, y equals a number. Yeah. Okay. So remember x's are represented in the top row, y's in the bottom, and I go fill in all the coefficients. So what is in front of x in the top row? -1. Okay. What's in front of y in the top row? +1. Nice. And that is equal to, perfect. Okay, what about in the bottom row? What are we going to have there? What else? Equals 11. Very good. All right, now I just want to go type that in my calculator. Okay, so again, let's go over those steps. So we press alpha F3. Okay, in the first matrix, what's its size? How many rows by how many columns? 2 by 2. Good. So make sure that yours says that it's a 2 by 2. After after you've highlighted 2 and 2, go down and press OK. And it should give you a blank matrix of that size. Okay, so what am I going to put in the top row? Perfect. -1 and 1. Okay, in the bottom row, what are we going to put? Perfect. All right, and we want it to have that little -1, just like they did, right? So in order to do that, remember you arrow outside of the matrix and press X to the -1 right underneath that word math. Okay? All right. Then we need to do the same thing for the -4, 11. So alpha F3. This one still has 2 rows, but how many columns does it have? Good. So change it to a 2 by 1. Go down to the bottom. You're going to press OK. All right, and then you're just going to type those numbers in. So we got -4, and then in the bottom, 11. Okay, so now we've got it typed in exactly like we had it written down over here. Move your cursor to the outside of the box and press Enter. Okay, what did it give us this time? Perfect. So this is equal to 7, 3. Which one of those numbers is representing X? The 7. And the 3 is representing the... So when I want to come write them as a coordinate point, I'm just going to write them as 7, 3. What is it?
Oh, that's what, like, he's wondering why the 2 is on the bottom, because you're looking at the first equation.
Right. Right. So we had -1, 1, -4. We write across the row, just like it's written over here. Then we have 2, -1, 11. So I put 2, -1, 11. So you write across the rows. The only reason we put the X and Y here is so that you can remember when you get your answers, which one's giving you the X, which one's giving you the Y. That's why I marked it out up here. Ignore it until you get your answers, okay? All right, we got one more. Okay, so they did not give us the boxes, so I got to draw them myself, okay? You don't have to write down this part. Like I said, you don't really need it till the end, right? So in this first box, whatever I put here and here comes from here and here, okay? So is it written as X, Y equals a number? Is that the order it's in? Okay. So what number is in front of X? Good. What number is in front of Y? Okay. Got my little -1 just like they drew. And what did they say that was equal to? 13. So I'm going to put that in a separate matrix just like they did. Okay. All right, then I look at the bottom row. What number is in front of X in the bottom row? Good. What number is in front of Y? Nice. Equals. Okay. So that's what we want to type in our calculator. Okay. So remember, in order to do that, I'm going to press alpha F3. Okay. And the first matrix is what size? 2 by 2. So make sure that you have highlighted 2 by 2. Okay, and then you just type in your numbers. So you guys told me in the top row we had, good. 15 and -12, okay. And then in the bottom row, what do we have? 30 and 9, good. Okay, remember we arrow outside and we need that little -1. So we're going to press X, inverse, okay? alpha, F3 again. This time, what size is our matrix? 2 by 1. Very good. Okay. Once we have it highlighted, we're just going to go down to the bottom and press OK. And then we fill in our numbers, which were good. All right. Arrow outside, and then we just press enter. Okay. And we got 0.3 repeating and negative 0.6 repeating. All right. That's what it's looking like we have here. Okay. So this was equal to 0.3 repeating and negative 0.6 repeating. Okay. All right, we don't want to leave our answers as decimals because this is something I'm trying to plot, right? So we want to convert to a fraction. Okay. Remember, we can do that in our calculator, but we've probably seen these quite a few times. We probably know that 0.3 repeating is 1/3, right? 0.6 repeating is 2/3, right? Just remember that that 2/3 is a negative. Okay? So what's negative 0.6 repeating?